Hi you guys, my name is Lanae. I am a Demi certified saint artist and this tutorial is all about Demi and covering melasma. Now melasma for everybody is going to be a little bit different, and the way you approach it for your own skin or in teaching your clients or your customers to approach it for their own skin is going to be a little bit different as it varies from person to person to person. So I already have my Demi sculpt done, and I have already filtered out a lot of my other problematic areas. So this video is going to be specific to melasma. Now you can see that I have quite a bit of melasma, mostly in my contour line, in my cheek area. I have a little bit here down on my jawline, and then same thing on this side as well. If I get a little bit closer, you can see a little bit better all of the melasma I have here on my jawline, in my contour line, and then kind of up towards my temple. I also have some right along my hairline, but my sculpt, or the toning of my sculpt, takes out a lot of that already. Same within my contour area and underneath my cheekbone, and so I don't focus on that as much. It tones it out enough that for my own personal preferences, it doesn't become it's no longer a distraction. So a couple of quick explanations first. We all know that the majority, for most of us, our melasma is made up of an excess of green. However, that doesn't necessarily mean that all melasma is only green, and within that green there can be a lot of degrees of how dark that green is. And so it's not necessarily that you're always going to use R1 if you have a melasma spot or a melasma area on your skin. It could be R3. For me in particular, I have a lot of melasma that is covers areas that also have a lot of freckling in them, and that freckling within the hyperpigmentation or those age spots or those sunspots, whatever it is that's creating that melasma, with the melasma areas and the freckling areas and everything kind of stacked on top of each other, a lot of times my melasma areas look something similar to what I call my chocolate chip cookie. So you can see right here, I have this kind of oval area. It looks kind of like an egg, and then there's I know that you can see like one major freckle in there. You might be able to see a couple of them if you zoom in really closely. But why I call that my chocolate chip area is because it's an area, or a chocolate chip, a cookie, that is comprised of a couple of colors, and then the little dots or the spots inside are comprised of a whole bunch of other different colors. So if you liken it to that chocolate chip cookie, then the edge of the cookie is basically, for me, it's basically one color. And when I eliminate that edge or that distraction around the circle, a lot of times what's inside will disappear. So long as I have already addressed those chocolate chips. It could be multiple chocolate chips. It could be the multiple of the same color of chocolate chips. It could be different colors of chocolate chips. Or it could be, you know, maybe one cookie was cooked a little bit longer and it's a little bit darker, and one maybe wasn't cooked quite as long and it's a little bit lighter. So I hope that you get the idea that every spot, every melasma area on your face is not necessarily going to be addressed the same. The trick is not necessarily knowing how to fix that one spot. It's knowing how to address that color, identify what color it is, and then filter that color individually, which is going to change day to day to day. Okay, so let's get started. For my melasma, for me personally, I have a spot right here down on my lower cheek, and then I have this huge, enormous chocolate chip cookie right here that kind of fades out up into my temple. So I'm going to start with this one right here because it's the biggest and most distracting of my melasma. Now this spot right here, this little area, the outer edge of it is pretty yellow, and then as it gets more into where you can see a little bit more definition of that outer edge, that defined part is pretty green, and then within it is blue. The kind of speckles inside of it is blue, and then this one right here, this giant freckle that I have right in the middle of it, that one is really, really, really blue. So taking that dark blue, because it's the darkest spot in there, and I know that it's a really deep, dull color, that tells me that it's blue, but it's really dark. It's really, really dark. Really, really dull, and I have kind of a medium skin tone already, and it's really dark compared to my medium skin tone. So I'm going to use a color that is in the orange family, but it's a really strong, vibrant orange, and see how by tapping the tiniest, most itty bitty pinprick, I don't know how well that'll focus on that, probably not very well, but you can see that my orange is only at the very tip of my towel, of my brush, and then I'm going to wipe off any excess onto my towel, and I'm going to use that tightest, smallest point of my brush to really gently just kind of tap on that spot, and you can see how it completely magically disappeared. So the trick to knowing when you have the right color is when you're applying the color, if it looks to you as though the tip of your brush is wiping away whatever discoloration was there, instead of adding a color on top of it, you know you have the right color. If you are addressing that spot and you're touching it and you're placing color on it and you can see the color that you're adding, that means you have the wrong color, especially if that color looks a little bit white or chalky, or it doesn't cover your spot, or if that color, that bright orange that I put on, if my spot then looks bright orange, that means that tells me that I've chosen the wrong color, and I need to try something different. Okay, so, but that color was exactly right. It was the deepest, darkest blue, and the brightest, most vibrant orange, which I think is our OY1, kind of that Cheeto orange color. That's what took care of that spot. Now, this, like the cookie part and the other chocolate chips that are in there, they don't bother me as much. I don't notice them as much now that one big, deep, dark chocolate chip is gone. Okay, so the cookie part, because I'm going to address kind of this outer edge, the whole entire edge, it kind of looks like it might be like a little bit broken off. It's not like a full complete circle. In some pieces of the edge it's really dark, in other pieces of the edge it kind of fades away. I'm not going to necessarily trace the whole entire thing. I'm only going to trace the parts of it that are really dark and really significant. Let's imagine that I don't know yet what color it's going to be, but I know that my melasma is green. So naturally what I would do would be to start with R1. R is the opposite on the color wheel is green. So I'm going to take my R1 and I'm going to kind of lightly, just with the lightest hand possible, barely even touching my skin, I'm going to dissect the edges of this piece of melasma and see if by adding a little bit of R1, I got a little bit too much there. So I'm going to get that off, and then I'm going to move to a different area of it, because once you kind of touch and play with a certain spot, you're going to draw blood to that area, and that blood being close to the surface is going to change the color of what it looks like. And you don't want to correct something when it's not the color that it actually is. But in doing that, I can see that this color is kind of white and chalky, which tells me that it's not the right color. So I'm going to wipe off all of that edge, and I'm going to go somewhere else in the meantime. Try a little bit different spot. Being careful not to get too much product anywhere, because you really don't ever want to see the makeup color on your face. You only want to see that you have amazing skin. If you have makeup color on your face, that's a sign, like I said, that it's the wrong color. So some of these other areas around there, I'm going to address and see if I can eliminate those while I'm waiting for the blood to kind of pull back away from that spot that I touched and kind of tapped and wiped off. And during that time, I got rid of the majority of this melasma back here behind this spot. I still have this melasma here, and then I have this big chocolate chip cookie here. So I feel like I've given it enough time. I'm going to go ahead and try with a different color. Now R1 was a little bit too white and too chalky. So that tells me, okay, that color is going to be too light for the depth of this color. So I'm going to try R3 and see if that's going to work a little bit better for me by doing the exact same thing, just kind of outlining, tapping along the edge anywhere that it's the most dark. And this color, it covers really well, really well. the spot underneath is gone. However, I've replaced it now with the color pink on my face. So that tells me that this is also not the right. So same thing, I'm gonna take off that little tiny bit of pink that I have there. I'm gonna let that spot on my cheek settle just a little bit, and I'm gonna move on to a little bit different area of my face and see if I can correct some of these other spots without either showing makeup texture or without adding the wrong color or too much product. Just gonna keep going with a couple of these spots and then go back to this spot up here. So I know that R1 was too light. I know that R3 was too pink, but it was the right depth. Like it got rid of it, it just showed too much pink. So that tells me that it wasn't fully green in there. It has some blue in it. So I'm gonna use the OR color to filter this instead. And this is filtering it like perfectly. So by process of elimination, I can determine what my right color is for that particular day. And now that I have kind of those little bit of edges, I got just a little bit too much product there. If you get too much product, don't try to blend it around. Instead, get it off. You don't want to have too much product on your skin. If you blend it around, then you're causing more of an issue. And sorry, I keep looking over here. I'm not used to doing a film sideways, so I apologize that that's kind of awkward. So that's really kind of my tricks and tips for melasma, is knowing that it's going to be just a little bit different for everybody. I got too much there. It's going to be just a little bit different for everybody. But if you use those couple of processes, if you dissect an area into what is creating that area, what little bits and pieces are making that area to be an area, and you're addressing those little by little, and you're understanding that the depth of your melasma is going to be different in different pieces and different places and different areas, different locations, and then within it, it's also going to have a variety of colors, then you can address your melasma really easily. It does take some time, it does take some practice, but with just a little bit of time and practice, you can master it too. So I'm going to keep going. I'm going to speed up the rest of this video so that you don't have to drag this along, but feel free to reach out to me anytime if you have any questions or if there's anything that I can help with. If only you could see. Don't you know that you're beautiful?